So we're going to go into that a little bit now and trace through the history a little bit of ransomware, why it's so hard, how smart people are, working against us, and some solutions that are left that we can tackle. So let's start here. So our agenda: how does it work? My security vendor promised me I was protected. Behind door number 3 is at least I have backups. And then number 4 is where do I go from here? If you're not depressed by 4, you weren't paying attention. That's pretty much how it's going to go. So let's start here. This is actually a real sketch from the Civil War where they dug a tunnel underneath the enemy's fortifications. Whichever side you were on, a lot of people died, and they blew up 8,000 pounds of gunpowder. So it was a large explosion. It was a sabotage operation, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. So we have breaches, right, which is more like a spy, like a super spy. Whoever, where you go? Not me. I was going to run. But we have espionage. They're going to steal your data. They're going to sell it. It's to the point now where it is so mature of an industry that the price of your data is down to ridiculously offensive levels. Where you're offended that you're worth so little in your life for bank records or healthcare records, just so much of it. Honestly, for breaches, what I think is going to happen is that the freshness of the data will mean more than the data itself because we've all been hacked so many times, right? Ransomware, though, is a maturing industry. Their motive is not to stay hidden forever and keep stealing stuff and tricking your CIO into cutting your budget, right? And here it's stay undetected long enough to inflict the most damage on you. That's all the goal is, right? Which is honestly the same as like a saboteur would do, right? Stay undetected, move through, blow up the ammo depot or whatever they're going to do, right? That's their goal. Once they've blown that up, they're kind of cool, So just like a kidnapper, only automated, right? Maturing. Automation is the big horizon here. Because what I think is going to happen is that just like kidnapping is a business in some areas of the world that we don't like to visit and kind of party at, what's going to happen is that as they get more and more people infected, they need to have some maturity in accepting payments, decrypting, things like that. It'll be a business transaction. So I think the future really is on, as they're ramping up, they're still ramping up, by the way. We're going to see some cool opportunities to pay ransoms very efficiently and effectively, like a real business transaction. Any questions so far? Cool. Okay, so let's get into encryption. We're all excited. Okay, so we have 2 types of encryption, and this theme's going to come up, so it's important to do the background now to really adjust your expectations lower. Right. So we have asymmetric keys. Until I can't move. Asymmetric keys and symmetric keys, right? And you're like, oh, what is that? So asymmetric keys are things for SSL, right? We like to have SSL, HTTPS, right? Really slow and inefficient for encrypting files. Symmetric keys are very fast for encrypting files. So what you normally see is if you're encrypting and decrypting lots of stuff, you normally encrypt and decrypt with symmetric key algorithms like AES, which is NIST compliant. And then a little trick they use is an old trick you learn in cryptography if you were in those kind of classes, like your graduate degree or whatever, PhD, is that you take your symmetric key and you protect it with your asymmetric key. That's an old trick. Military networks use it. Other people use it. Ransomware people, whomever they are, learn that trick as well. I hope that's none of my professors from back in college. That would be really awkward. Anyway, so what you see over and over and over is, just keep that in mind, AES, symmetric key encryption with a password, right? Protected by your PKI, by your SSL cert, or whatever they have to actually protect that key. Key distribution is a major issue for everyone who's ever had 2-factor authentication with like PKI, with the PKI cards, common access cards, the military, things like that. Protecting the key really is very important. Which is why it's my next slide. So we have ransomware authoring, all these little tricks we've tried to play out. I've kind of watched it happen over time, where the authors of the ransomware are maturing in how they do business on the technical side and the business side. Tech came first though. So first they were writing a key to a file. Defenders said, I'll just read the key file. Well, that seems really obvious, right? You'll notice that as we get farther down, it requires more time, attention, and money, and more preparation for both defender and ransomware writer, right? But of course the money gets to go up, so good for them, I guess. So then they would put the key in all the malware. They'd say, here's the key, we're gonna patch it in, and no one can read it. And then people would pop open IDA Pro, or now Libra you can use, reverse engineer the malware, get the key, and now they have the key for everyone. MSysSoft or someone like that would put out this decryptor, and they'd say, here you go, world, and the hacker would laugh at hacker, and then change the key, and then we have a new key. That's kind of how it works, right? Then they said, oh, you know what, let's put a unique key in each malware sample instead. That's easy to say. If anyone's ever run like a two-factor SMIME or PGP kind of architecture, key distribution and keeping track, like, you know, you don't give Mary Sue's key to Billy Bob and that kind of stuff is hard, really hard, like 10-year DoD billion-dollar program hard, right? So this has some challenges to it for the attacker to keep that straight. You've heard stories of where people get a decryptor, they pay the fine or the ransom, the decryptor wouldn't work. There are a variety of reasons that can happen, and one of them is that they couldn't keep their inventory straight. You know, so reverse engineer one malware sample, you can do that, and then once, you know, let's say you have 30,000 machines that are actually infected, you can go ahead and use the same technique and get all the keys and try to decrypt all of them, right? Again, easy to say, harder to do, even harder to get funding for. Then you have generate key on the fly, right? So we're watching when things are getting smarter, right? They're saying, I'm just gonna make a new key every time. Awesome. That really screws up a lot of things. So you can grab the key because they didn't delete the key. So that made it easier and possible for us mere mortals to go ahead and grab the key. We weren't asking the CIO for $1 billion prey, you know? So, or quantum, we're now all quantum, right? So generate key on the fly, protect the key. Now things are going to get more and more desperate. I actually had an arrow here, but it was too depressing, and it showed the level of desperation, you know, in the boardroom. You can pay the ransom, get the money to recover, you know, from insurance, right? I think North Hydro was like $50 million. They're trying to rebuild their network. Baltimore's $18 million. So it's I know you're not supposed to pay the ransom. Any FBI in here? Cool. 800,000, $18 million. I know you don't want to help the good guys, or the bad guys, I should say. I don't want to be the guy presenting that to the boardroom. I'm going to hire someone to do that so that he can get fired. You know, so, or go to law enforcement and let them seize the server, which has a symmetric key that can decrypt all of your symmetric keys that are encrypting all the files. Great idea, right? Unfortunately, the hackers they laugh at hacker, a little bit more evil than the good guys, right? Allegedly. So they realize that if the server's tampered with on the new servers for the ransomware, they will delete those keys securely. What that means is, laugh at hacker, you get to have every single victim get screwed because, you know, plucky, I don't know, Royal Canadian Police marches into the server room and grabs that server, unplugs it, whatever. They just kill everyone's machine because there's no more encryption keys left. We're done, right? So then your option is to don't tell law enforcement or tell them nicely to not go and take that machine offline, and then go ahead and pay the ransom or spend that money to recover. So desperation, you know, you can almost like hear the panic in the boardroom, right? As they get more mature. This is where we are right now, by the way. Any questions? Anyone disagree with me? Any anger? Awesome, let's keep going. Okay, so more math. I love math. Okay, so when I got my grad degree in computer science security, all my professors were like these Chinese guys who were so smart, like incredibly smart. Could barely understand them, but they spoke math, so I kind of got by. I can still get A's. I still have no idea what they were teaching me, but I can read the PowerPoint slides and get formulas. They actually talked down a Cisco VPN architect once. Like he showed like a backdoor channel in 5 minutes. That level of smartness should not be in the world. So okay, so forcing payment. Remember, their incentive is to get you to pay. That's all they care about, right? So we have the old school way of kind of like decrypting, encrypting. This is also electronic codebook, a notoriously bad form of encryption that uses AES. It's so bad that there are like memes about it on certain circles where if you go to those places, the math means, but like, but you put the key in, awesome, you can decrypt, right? So you get the key, it's like, remember Heroes, like, save the girl, save the world, it's like kind of like that, you save the key, you're good to go. Now, it got more complex now. Has anyone ever had a ransomware attack and actually seen the ransom note or read a ransom note? Cool, okay. So did it say like don't move the files or don't turn the machine off? Awesome. There's a reason for that. The reason is that ignore the mathy stuff. If all you take away is that one file getting encrypted or decrypted relies on the generation of the new key for the next file, that's all I want you to remember out of this. So if I take this one and like move it to here, I just messed up the whole chain, and it's not the hacker's fault. He's just doing math, So it's more complicated. So whenever I like sell my product, my ransomware product to a like MBAer, they're like, just get the key, and I'm like, it's not that easy, right? So NSA train, we kind of call this like crypto variables because there's more things at play nowadays than just a key, and that's on purpose, right? So it's for a good reason. So then also maximizing payment. Profits are up in ransomware, invest in ransomware. So we have here where the customer payment. So local workstation, this is a volume game. It's like the Walmart, everyone's like, oh, like I had customers say, well, I haven't seen where they target my X company, right? Or my genre. And I'm like, no, look, there's the go wide stuff that kind of goes everywhere. Then there's the targeted stuff, right? As we go down, again, the level of pain kind of increases, but so does their payment, right? So pain on both sides. So from there, this is all automated nowadays, the local workstation. And you see like the worms, they'll kind of go out, and network application can take care of some of that. Then you have network file shares. They're automatically mapping those out, including your cloud-mounted network file share, right? We're going to get into more of that later. And then they will maneuver to production servers and databases that encrypt. So you have a blending of that kind of spy moving around behind, on the enemy base. Plus you have the ransomware now, right? Which is honestly more like what they train some of the people to do, like, special forces, where they don't maneuver to the right place. Allegedly. Overcoming obstacles, like offline resources, maybe air gapping, things like that. Great, go ahead and do that. The number of people that will be able to execute, that mission is lower. The level of effort is higher. I promise you, and we've seen this already, where the level of payday for them goes up significantly because they know that if you have the money to kind of spend on this kind of stuff, then you have the money to pay, really. So I'm not saying to try to let your workstations get hacked and ransomware. But just know that your increased level of pain, great. I think it's a good thing. But the payout, if it does happen, is going to be a little higher, right? This is how it's going to happen. Again, profits are up. So, okay. So then, my security. Now I'm a vendor, by the way. So my security vendor protects me, which is a lie. I'm a vendor, and I can't stop it. So let's go into that a little bit, right? Beyond the FUD, which is why I have a sales guy to throw the FUD. Because I'm not good at it. Okay, so dwell time, not your friend. So the normal antivirus world is that the hacker gets in, antivirus, catches up after a month, 2 months, a year, whatever. My record so far is we have one APT discovery. It's 5 years now, we're under NDA, waiting on it to be discovered. It was a C-level at a financial institution. I did my contract, I found it, we're waiting for public disclosure. This is how the world works, right? If you want to get reemployed, keep your mouth shut. So, dwell time, 93 days, 197 days, these are horrible images, sorry. 28 days, 39 days for payment. Okay, great. And then 400 hours spent on false positives. If you go on my website, you'll see Crucible and how we just kind of do a whole bunch of analysis and reporting. We go into the assumption, which makes some people angry, that they're in and that they've been in Laughing and Hacker and that we're not going to catch up with the antivirus. What we found was that all of those 0 days we were found are in this bucket where there's the false positives, true positives all mixed in together, and no one can ever have enough people to figure it out. Now, for breaches, that's bad, but solvable. ML, AI, fill in buzzwords. For ransomware, this is not even fit, right? Because that means that they have a minimum 93 days to hang out in your network, figure out where they want to encrypt, and go ahead and do it, right? I mean, they can do it in 5 minutes. So it's like saying, don't worry, we'll find the saboteur, on Fort Knox or whatever. We know he's there somewhere. We're hoping he doesn't steal anything or blow anything up in 90 days. That's our plan, right? That's kind of like I was in OIF, so I can say this. That was kind of like our invasion plan for OIF, right? Just kind of hope for the best. So, but just keep those in mind. Like dwell time really messes us up, and I hear this constantly. So this is me in about a year. I'm gonna do the card. So backups. Anyone have one of these?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I had one of them.
Awesome. So backups. Also, I had something on here about blame the victim, but I never. So there was this old story when I first started in IT, and I'm glad there's some people here that are have a little bit gray hair, right? Because I don't like Indians. This guy. So you would Doris in accounting, or Mike or whatever, it's not gender specific, would have their hard drive crash. And they were working on the budget all day, or all week, or all month. And then their hard drive would crash, they'd lose everything, and then they'd come back and they'd say, my hard drive crashed, I lost everything. And the sysadmin, whether it was me or someone else, the first thing they would say was what?
Did you
you had a backup, and they never have a backup, right? Then it went to, oh wait, I have my network file share. And then we say the first thing was, did you put it on the network share, right? Which was RAID 5, whatever. Maybe they did. Maybe a version did, right? I don't know. But, and let's say you even had the backup. It was like, I worked at a contract for a unnamed backup vendor at one point. And like the #1 rule was you don't talk about how hard it is to get back to production from backup, right? It is never smooth, right? You just don't talk about that. I told a guy get fired that day of the interviews, So he lasted like 4 hours. So either way, so even with backups, that's great. It comes down to, hey guys, don't tell the investors like I'm leaving right now. That's this one. Then versus the how much should we lose? How old? How stale is the backup? We had a cyber insurance company we talked to, and they were like, oh great, now you can recover everything from a backup. They were talking about backup solutions. We don't do that. But and they said, well, we can get rid of business. And I said, no, you still need to pay out because you got to bring all those systems back online, and it's going to be. I use some words that are not appropriate for right now, but it's not going to be fun. It's going to cost a lot of money, a lot of time. So we have that. Local file system loss, network-based. Network-based, this is all automated. I brought that up already, right? They will happily encrypt everything. We had one person who used, Dropbox. And that happily is mounted as a network share for your users because you don't want help desk tickets every day. And it kind of took its toll on that too. So automation, good, I guess, yay. So cloudy server losses, you'll see S3 mounts, for Amazon, things like that. Those get encrypted, unfortunately. Offline backups are really interesting for me because it makes the attacker be a little bit smarter. A great example is when we started doing ransomware stuff, we actually went ahead and moved to AWS Glacier, which has a read-only mode for our stuff. And we pen tested ourselves because I have a whole company of cyber operations and pen testers and exploit developers, all kind of stuff, right? And unfortunately, we realized that it was just a matter of like popping my credentials or my AWS credentials and then elevating privileges to make Glacier writable now. And they showed me how they could still nuke my backups. So that didn't quite go as planned, right? And I'm a security guy, so of course I had to buy more alcohol. So offline backups, interesting. I don't believe all the hype. It just means there's extra steps to go through. I think it has a place in risk management strategy because it raises the bar. But like it's a wall. Think of it as a wall, right? And any CISPs in here? Oh, look at that, Sean. Sean's our only security guy. No, I'm kidding. So I let mine expire, actually, because I wasn't using it. But they talk about walls and fences and gates as a deterrent. It's something to slow things down for attackers, right? In this case, yes, it'll slow them down or raise the bar. They also might not know what an offline backup is or not care and just kind of, hey, you get to save the day with the backup and only spend $100,000 in IT costs versus, whatever, 18 million to recover. Or backups are encrypted. I think I have another slide on that one. So say goodbye to Sega. Okay, so encrypted backup. Oh, here's my Glacier, awesome. That did not scale well. That's not vector graphics, sorry. So encrypted files and backups, what they'll do is your automated backup solution will very happily and very efficiently and continue to send your encrypted files up. And we've seen attackers where they're smart enough, well, they'll let them trickle in until it becomes like a snowball. Because we all know that every file put on a wiki or a file share in your business is accessed and readily available and read by your users every day, right? I mean, we're all collaborating, you know. So, we'll find that a problem. They got to try to roll back to where the last unencrypted one is, and you know they hope for the best. Of course, the most recent one's most likely on the laptop, right? So, ransomware backups, where they'll happily back up their encrypted files, because we have this like month to year long exercise of waiting for antivirus to catch up. You can scan the backups and find the old stuff or the cheap stuff, but it's not going to find like the really good stuff, you know. It's a partial solution. I don't want to say that your risk management should be fatalistic, right? But it should be realistic and realize that you should do things you can do, right, on the way to preparing for something bad to happen. Offline backups, yeah. Oh, look at that, I did that myself, sorry. Okay, so, and their incentive is pay maximum ransom, right? So, you may be targeted, you may not be. If you're not targeted, the chance of like maybe an antivirus scan even before the backup happening is actually pretty good, you know, because if it's like, you know, 3-year-old ransomware that's like unpacked and just kind of hanging out there for 12-year-olds to run, that's good for you, because then you have a chance to stop it from happening and find it easier. If it's targeted, again, why is this so hard? You know, this is like a breach on steroids, right? Because you know, if credit cards get stolen, okay. If the whole company goes down, the board gets more excited, which I have strong feelings about. But regardless, there we are. Now we're here. Now I grabbed this from like a World War I public health safety kind of announcement. In the world where there weren't vaccines like there are now, and there weren't antibiotics. I picked influenza because I was like, yeah, we can relate to that. It says things like, don't take a person's breath, keep your mouth and teeth clean, avoid crowds, good ventilation, don't share cups. And I said, you know what? Every single one of these, sorry anti-vaxxers, but every single one of these has a relationship to the advice given by 60 Minutes just like last week, or CERT before that, to don't plug your computer into places you don't know, you know, almost like a high school health class, you know, you know, they're saying put 2-factor on, okay, yeah, wear the mask, that's good, unfortunately there's not a solution at hand, right? It's not that they don't have antibiotics, so it's like a death sentence if you got infected, right? So this was Spanish flu, I believe. Anyway, so there's a lot of similarities here. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, no vaccines or antibiotics. So use good hygiene, right? We kind of went there. So I won't read my notes. Outlook and PowerPoint do an excellent job on coloring this though. But you can read that. That's pretty much that's the best story we got. I mean, I can't do better than that. So does anyone want me to stay on this, or can I move forward? Okay. You have a question? Or heckle? Yeah. So
would you recommend like sanitizing backups on a regular basis with new threat detection software, that kind of thing?
Yeah, you can run antivirus on it. I think there's a company that does that, right? It'll automate the scanning, or you can do it yourself, right? A lot of it's so you have yeah, Sean.
Sorry. Have you seen any ransomware that encrypted another gang's ransomware infected system?
Well, it's kind of random. So if you look at the actual software, it does two things. I didn't go into all that, but it actually will encrypt based on a file extension sometimes, or it will just encrypt everything. If it encrypts everything and it's an EXE, then out in the wild, right, or MSI or whatever, then yes, you know, we actually have a little cheat. We have a piece of Python code that is someone distributed ransomware. It was Python, and we removed the sleep and the are they really a person stuff and just run it for demos because it's reliable. Doesn't require waiting 3 days, but or 6 months. They'll do that, and we can turn on and off the extension check. Decide what to actually encrypt. If it's a if it's bundled inside of like a docx or something like that, which we allegedly may have done in a pen test, then it will, not ransomware, that's kind of evil, but what will happen is that you will happily encrypt that docx with that payload or PDF or whatever it is, inserted, and you'll just, it's there, Static signature detection will detect that over time. The heuristic-based ones will not, right? Because they're looking for behaviors, and it's just a static file. They're doing string checks, doing Yara, things like that. As an aside, I should stop talking and answer your question and get to my.
My question was about, so are these guys, are they specifically looking for the backups now and getting in and encrypting them? And
Somewhat.
Are they hanging around so that they know that they've owned your entire backup history?
It seems like what they're doing is they are, it depends on level of effort, right, just like everything else. I guess as a vendor, I'm supposed to give you like the worst possible case and blame on North Korea. But there's drive-bys that are like, click on a link, right, and which would happen to have a worm or automatic capability, all the way to they spent obviously a lot of resources and time and training and tradecraft to get to the point where they're able to do that, right? I would guess we're used to a world where it's based off of intellectual property to get stolen or military grade, whatever. But this is pure mercenary, right? This is based on it seems like it's all. I'm just guessing, right? Like I don't get into meetings and talk to them, but like over Brandy or whatever. But we'll say they have drink remove. There you go. They're evil. Yeah, exactly. So what we can do instead is, I think what it's based off of is, they decide if they're going to go that far, how much money they have, right? I don't see women's shelters getting hit with this kind of stuff, right? So it has to be money incentivized. And that was purely Dennis. That was not based on a human intelligence operation. It's just me guessing. Yeah. So are we good?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So as a vendor, what are you doing to offset that?
That's my next slide. I want to look at that though. This is more about educating than about selling, right? So what we did, and this is why we did this, was we said, okay, I can't stop them from getting in, even with my own patented products. I can't detect them in time. I can't analyze them in time. I just have to automate cleaning up the mess as best as I can, right? So we actually took our Zen Siphoner agent, which we made because we found some yet to be disclosed Russian malware, which was doing really cool things with cryptography, and we said, can it work on ransomware? And it did. And so now we're exploring that further. We've hacked in. We're assuming that they'll bypass everything eventually, right? Despite there being a strong CEO-approved risk management program that all of you have, I know, And then we said, okay, let's use our foo with crypto analytic techniques to decrypt automatically. If they're encrypted, decrypt it, right? Give them a solution and automate like crazy because they are automating like crazy. The market is maturing. And I could just see a boardroom, inside of a volcano with sharks beneath them and lasers, all saying hey, I want to hit your target, your on-target earnings is 2 million machines next month, right? That's where it's going, right? It's already gone, but that's where it's going, and it's going bigger and badder. Again, the maturation of the industry means that paying will almost guarantee getting decrypted, I think, because they'll want that ability to do the turnkey, right? It'll be more painless because they have to handle 2 million transactions a month or whatever. That's just where it's going to go, right? So for us, our deadline was actually 10 minutes. That's our metric. We're down to a minute or less for some. Others are still taking longer. We rushed it to market. I haven't had a day off in quite a while. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Sales pitch over. We made it. Yeah, good team. Okay. So. Do you guys have any questions? I want to go back to a certain slide. Yeah.